What's up, everybody? Listening to The Fringe live, 103.7 WPWL, Pauling Public Radio. I'm Mike Berquist, the host of this show. When I started playing the music, I actually had a panicked thought for half a second of, is this the right day and time for me to be doing this? And it is. It's Sunday at 1 p.m. You know, the music's getting aggressive around the chorus part now. I'm going to fade that all the way down to 0. Okay, so we're live here, The Fringe. I am solo today. I know I said I was going to try to get some fresh voices in here, but I didn't try. I reached out to Ed. He was unavailable today, and Teresa and the Bellantoni family we're going to actually be keeping in our thoughts and prayers today, and you know, for however long, because they are dealing with a loss in the family at the moment, which is very sad. So Teresa's obviously not here today. But we are sending good, positive thoughts, positive vibes to the Bellantoni family in their these troubled times, this hard time. I don't know. I'm not good with words, everyone. Welcome to The Fringe, a show where I am supposed to string words together in succession, for better or worse. So let's do the birthday death day. That's what we typically do around here. The birthday is a weird one this week. I definitely went a different direction. The birthday today is Tim Wildsmith, and I'll tell you why I picked Tim Wildsmith, and it's because in the birthdays on Wikipedia, I saw his name. I hovered over it because it said he's a musician. I went to his page, and I am 90% sure that he wrote the page himself, and then put his name in the famous birthday section of Wikipedia, and because of all that, I give a lot of credit to this man. So let's actually take a look at his Wikipedia page, and I'll kind of explain why this seems like he's probably just doing this himself. First red flag. Under background information. On Wikipedia, if you've never been there, off to the side, when it's a musician, there'll be a picture of the person with their name and then a whole list of background information right below it. Now, under labels for his music, it says none. His website is his own website. It's got his genres, his occupation, his instruments, his birth. But the fact that the label says none concerns me. So there's a lot of really up-to-date information in his early life section about who influenced him as a child, and sort of what his family life and stuff like that, that's generally there for musicians. Sometimes not in that much detail unless they're a very notable person. It looks like he was at Belmont in Nashville. And then under career, it's just all his different albums with a lot of, again, really inside background information. For example, one of his albums, or actually, it says, in July 2009, Wildsmith launched the website FinanceMyAlbum.com in an effort to raise money to record his upcoming album, Little Armor. In a video to fans, he explained anyone who donated $1 to help fund the recording would have their name placed in the liner notes of the album. If fans donated more money, they would receive more incentives. That's the whole thing there. Now, people who have Wikipedia pages dedicated to their music career typically don't also crowdfund their own albums. Doesn't typically happen that way. I suppose it could, but I don't know. Just everything about this. It's. Oh yeah. And then there's the only other section besides early life and career is tattoos. And it's, again, a lot of really inside detail about what his tattoos are. So I'm pretty sure Tim Wildsmith made a Wikipedia page for himself, put himself in the famous birthdays, and you know what? Got on a radio show. He got it all announced on a radio show. One of my favorite parts at the bottom is the awards section. You would think for a musician, Grammys, things like that, notable big-name award shows, perhaps with a red carpet, perhaps not. I know it's a little hackneyed at this point. 2 awards. We've got second annual Omaha Entertainment and Arts Awards. That's the first one. The second one, and this is what made me really think this guy made this himself. 2009. The award is Scooter's Coffee House Songwriting Competition. That's the only other award listed under awards, the Scooter's Coffee House Songwriting Competition. He's the winner of that. And if anyone was guessing what the name of this episode is going to be, it's probably going to be Scooter's Coffee House Songwriting Competition, because that alone is a hilarious several words in a funny order. I got to learn how to talk, because breaking it down like that sucks the funny out and makes me sound like an alien. Death Day today, radically different direction. This is a person that should be known. I've actually been waiting for this person to pop up in a birthday or death day, probably around since I've started my show. Jack Kerouac. It's Jack Kerouac Day, everyone. Finally. Jack Kerouac is one of my biggest influences in terms of, I don't know, a whole lot of things, actually. He was a notorious drunk. He came to loathe the movement that he had sort of accidentally started, or maybe not accidentally. It depends on who you listen to and what you read. But he came to hate what the Beat Generation kind of turned into, and then despised the hippies. And of course, because he was sort of the founder and like the godfather of the entire thing, people would like make pilgrimage to him, or like they would almost kind of worship him or see him in sort of like a almost like a saint of sorts. And I think he hated all of that. So, yeah, I don't know. I still love Jack Kerouac. He would probably hate me just because I'm a fan of his. But, yeah, so rest in peace, Jack Kerouac. And because of that, I don't know how much people are going to want to hear this, but it's short. It's just under 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 43 seconds. It's from an album that Jack Kerouac did with Steve Allen. That Steve Allen, the talk show host from back in the day. Yeah, it's Kerouac and Steve Allen. They made an album together, actually, where Steve Allen played piano and Jack Kerouac read poetry over it. And it was an LP, and it was called Poetry for the Beat Generation. So this is a poem song that they did called Charlie Parker. So we're going to hear that, and then we'll come back and talk about other stuff. And don't worry, it's not going to be all poetry and really niche or niche, however you want to pronounce that kind of stuff, all day. This is going to be probably the weirdest kind of song you hear, unless I decide to play Captain Beefheart later, which I'm considering. Enough of this rambling. Here's Jack Kerouac and Steve Allen doing Charlie Parker. Jack Kerouac and Steve Allen, Charlie Parker, off of their LP, Poetry for the Beat Generation. I had a weird kind of thought while I was on that I always get annoyed when people play like show tunes and stuff at this radio station, and then I go and play beat poetry on the air. So I need to shut up is the point. Let's move along now, though. No more beat poetry today. We got news. We got news to look at. And in case any of you hep cats out there, I just want to say hep cats. I didn't really have anything else to add to that. So I'm not even going to finish that sentence. We're just going to continue on with the news, you hep cats. Headlines today. We still got the Saudi Arabia thing. You would think that when a man films his own execution on an Apple Watch and then sends it out, that there wouldn't still be questions this late in the game. We know what happened, and yet everyone wants to walk around on eggshells because Saudi Arabia has a lot of money and oil. And they are a quote-unquote ally in the Middle East. I mean, take a cursory glance at the details surrounding 9/11 and then ask yourself a few questions about how those two pieces of information can simultaneously exist and be believed by people in power. And my point of that meaning, obviously, they had a role in 9/11, so they shouldn't be our allies, not the other way around. So basically, it says, changing course, Trump accuses Saudis of deception in killing of Khashoggi. Khashoggi, of course, being the journalist who was killed in I believe it wasn't the Saudi Arabian consulate in Turkey. I believe that's what it was. So that's still happening. I think we all know what happened, though. So it's time to actually, stop walking on eggshells. Start doing something. But we'll see. Headlines, everyone still wants to yell at each other and posture for the press. So, sorry, Khashoggi. your death is no closer to being any kind of avenged. What else we got here in the news? Also, because I got political pretty much right out of the gate, let me just do the views and opinions expressed on this program do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or policies of Polling Public Radio. I'm just tired of, I don't know, that whole story and all these issues that keep coming up in that part of the world. I want to believe that they're becoming more moderate, that Saudi Arabia, anyway, is becoming more moderate, that the Crown Prince is actually enacting reforms that are going to increase the quality of life for the citizens living there and make the world a safer place. But I don't know. Every time I feel like we take a step forward, there's 3 steps back in a dead journalist. So I don't know what to think anymore. Let's move along. Gavin Williamson, I don't know who that is, says that Britain backs Donald Trump and the U.S. on the Russia arms treaty withdrawal. Yes, we are breaking the decades-old nuclear arms treaty with Russia. That's a frightening sentence. I'm sure the reality is much safer, but that's something to be worried about today in 2018. They're still trying to figure out the polls to tell you if the Democrats are going to win the Senate or not. You can't trust polls. Talked about this last week. Moving along. We got a train crash in Taiwan. Killed 18. It's the deadliest rail tragedy in decades. 22. I'm seeing also, as of 2 hours ago, 22 dead, 171 injured. So very sad over there. We got, this is always interesting. For you, this is the recommended stories for me based on my interests. Now, Google has no business trying to put together a dossier on me and my interests, but they have, and this is what they've come up with. Red Dead Redemption 2, a video game, that developer, Rockstar Games, talks about criticism over not empowering women in its games. Now, let me stop right there. Red Dead Redemption 2 takes place in 1899, I think. Not typically considered a peak time period for women empowerment in the United States, where the game takes place. It is a historical fiction game. Sure, the map is fictional, but it is considered the American West. The country is the United States. The year actually occurred. So, criticism over not empowering women in its games? It's a cowboy shoot-'em-up game. And it wouldn't make sense to do that in that time period either if you want to keep your game. That makes sense. I don't know. Pick your battles is what I'm trying to say, people. Man, I'm coming out hot today. Coming out hot. I am not suffering any of the BS. Not today. I don't know why. Nothing happened. I don't know what's happening to me. But let's keep going. More stuff about the, let's see. Corker says he thinks the Saudis killed Jamal Khashoggi. Let's see, the 3rd out of 4 stories that they've selected for me. Watch a united Wu-Tang Clan perform 36 Chambers tracks on Jimmy Kimmel Live. We might, actually. Yeah. All right, but before we do that, the last story. Daredevil showrunner addresses the absence of the Defenders and the Punisher. Well, those are all different shows, so they don't have to be in Daredevil. They were not in the first season. Why would they have to be in the 3rd? Doesn't make sense. So Daredevil's back, everyone. That's exciting news. We got, let's see. We got U.S. news. Oh, there's a whole bunch of crap here. I'll scan all that and find the good stuff. Reddit news has a whole bunch of stuff that I am going to really tear into. It seems like it's too early to take a break, but I kind of want to. I want to play a Lou Reed song. I want to play Hangin' Round today, because I like that song. It's off of his 1972 hit, probably the best album that he had out. It might have been his solo debut, I think. It was, of course, the album Transformer, which is just so fantastic that everyone should go out and, I don't know, YouTube it, if not buy a copy. So let's hear Hangin' Round by Lou Reed. It's not a song that you're going to hear on other radio stations typically. So with that in mind, here's Lou Reed, Hangin' Round. Lou Reed, Hangin' Round, off his 1972 hit album, Transformer. That is a fantastic song from a fantastic album by a fantastic artist. There you go. So I'm looking at more stuff in the news. I totally forgot about this until I just saw it before. That migrant caravan is coming up here. Now I'm not gonna get too into detail with it, but I am surprised by Fox News's way of reporting this. They go the opposite direction of how you thought they would do this. The headline from Fox News is Migrant Caravan Grabs for American Dream as Immigrants Forge Unique Challenges for U.S. and Mexico. Now, I don't know. I don't want to offend everyone, but this isn't the happy, inspiring underdog story that a lot of people think that it is. It's 1,200 people coming here saying that we're not going to do this legally. We're just coming, and you're not stopping us. That's what's happening there. Here's the only thing I'll really say about that kind of thing. Let's put 1,200 destitute Americans on a boat and send them to France and tell France in advance, these people are coming to live in your country. They're not going to get citizenship or anything. They're just coming, and they're going to live there. You're going to take care of them. And that's what's going to happen. Do you think France, for a second, would tolerate that? Just think about that for a second. If you decided to go to another country, not get citizenship, and just stay there and expect all this stuff, do you think that those countries would welcome you with open arms? I don't know. It's weird. I feel like there's an odd double standard in this country. I get the idea of the American dream, the land of the free. It's a nice idea on paper. It has never, for a single day in this country, been the case for anyone of any race, religion, or creed. That's never been the case. So, I don't know. I'm in a weird place. But, yeah, so that's still happening. That migrant caravan is still slowly barreling its way north. We're going to see what happens. They got through Guatemala, I think. Not that anyone was particularly trying hard to stop them. Yeah, we're going to see. They're crossing into Mexico right now. We're going to see what Mexico does. I know that they have said that they want to stop this from happening, that they're going to try to help. Donald Trump is played hardball with Mexico, again, from day one. He has never given them any kind of benefit of the doubt with anything. And so we're going to see what happens there. We're going to see. All right, what's this? Local news is always odd. Always odd. Man taken into custody after being barricaded in Lake Carmel. I just want to take a peek at what this is. This is from the putnam.dailyvoice.com, so very local stuff. Let me see. A man who barricaded himself inside a home in Lake Carmel was taken into custody late Friday night. The incident began Friday afternoon around 3:40 p.m. A family member called police reporting the situation. The Putnam Sheriff's Department, Kent Police responded with assistance from Westchester County Police. So that there had been reports that the man had a gun and that a loud bang was heard at one point, but no weapon was immediately recovered. The sheriff's office alerted residents to stay inside during the first hours of the standoff, and school buses were rerouted. That's literally the end of the story. And it's from yesterday. Well, everyone, let's take that as an example of why local news is always doomed to be nonsense. You finally get an interesting story and you report half of it. Good work. Let's see. Business news, Powerball, $2 million winning ticket, Knoxville, Tennessee. Wait, Knoxville, Tennessee? That can't be right, can it? I don't know how lotteries work, everyone. Bear with me for a moment. It's in Knoxville, it says. I don't know. It's weird. I thought I knew about the lottery. Turns out I'm not sure. Is it a New York one? Nope, it is Tennessee. Okay, so Powerball must be the national thing. I'm learning, everyone. Or as Ralph Wiggum would say, learning. So, yeah. Let's jump over to Reddit news. Reddit news, they keep it real over there. This is where you get some interesting stories. Here's the top one of the hot news, the news that people are really interacting with. The comments, the likes, the upvotes, I believe is a thing on Reddit. Coming from Fox News, not fair. World cycling bronze medalist cries foul after transgender woman wins gold. Now, this kind of a story was going to come out at some point. I am all for, equal rights for everyone, the transgender, LGBTQ, all the stuff, everything. I don't know all the phrases, but I think everyone should be equal and have the same rights. That being said, it is tricky when you start mixing it up with sports. Sports leagues in particular. And the bathroom thing is nonsense. I don't care who goes into what bathroom to use the bathroom. I don't care about anything like that. With sports is different, though, because of the literal physical makeup of different bodies depending on gender. And I know that you're not supposed to say that. We're supposed to pretend that that's not a thing that's real. But it is real. Men and women are built differently. So when they split the sports leagues, they do that to avoid... hopefully everyone knows what I mean already, that I don't really have to break this down step by step, but they're separated to keep it fair. It's the same reason why you don't have different weight classes fighting each other in MMA or boxing. It's the same sort of mentality around that. So when you start the transgender issue, it creates... I mean, it's very tricky. First of all, it's nearly impossible to talk about without somebody getting angry at you. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're coming down on, what your take is, what your stance. Someone's going to be annoyed at you. So I'm headed into this with that already in mind. Now, when you have... I'm struggling here. When you have a male to female transition, it's see, I already feel like I'm heading into Roseanne territory. Someone's going to take everything away from me if I continue on speaking about this. Point is, no, I'm not. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Listen to this. This is a serious moral quandary you're hearing on the air right now. I'm not playing this up for the air. I honestly don't know if it's okay for me to talk about this. That's the world we live in 2018. I'll do it anyways. Male to female transition. It is still, for the most part, a male body. I'm wincing as I say that because I know that doesn't sound good. Identity and reality, bear with me here. Identity and reality do not always match up. And when it comes to sports... I thought I was getting frantic text messages. Just an alarm on my phone. So it obviously this is obviously an issue for the sport because if you have male to female transition and let's say it's a guy who's 250 pounds of muscle. He's a giant, but he identifies as a woman. He has he has the transitional surgeries and stuff like that. It's still 250 pounds of muscle. It's, the bone structure is that of a man, typically. That person is going to have an advantage in certain sports over women who were born a particular way. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm really trying to talk about this as gently and nicely and PC as possible, but it's nearly impossible to do that. So, first of all, the world cycling bronze medalist crying foul after a transgender woman wins gold, saying that it's not fair. Was the silver medalist also transgender? Shut up. Stop crying. You were bronze. You weren't going to get first anyways. It didn't matter who was there. That second place person, that's who you should be annoyed with. No, you should be annoyed with yourself for not being better. Take that. That's what I say. So let's jump into this story here. The American bronze medalist who lost a world championship cycling race to a transgender woman from Canada has criticized the results as unfair. First transgender woman world champion ever, Rachel McKinnon, an assistant professor of philosophy at the College of Charleston in South Carolina, bragged Sunday in a tweet that set off a massive debate. McKinnon gave a talk at the College of Charleston earlier this year asking, is it fair for trans women athletes to compete in women's categories? While McKinnon argues it is, given the rules and regulations adopted by the International Olympic Committee, the IOC, and the Court of Arbitration for Sport, the CAS, the bronze medalist felt another way at the finish of the World Championships. It's definitely not in all caps, fair, Jennifer Wagner, the third-place finisher from Houston, said in response to a tweet from British conservative Katie Hopkins. Let's see here. What else we got? Hopkins tweeted an image of the three cyclists on the podium with this caption: "For clarity, this was the Women's World Championships. I repeat, women's. Congratulations to the brave faces of silver and bronze. The world is gripped by a febrile madness." I don't know what that word is. Yikes, what is this name? It's Caroline spelt wrong, and then it's Van, and then a whole bunch of consonants. There's K's, there's H's, there's a Y followed by a Z. This name is madness. So anyways, that's the silver medalist. The silver medalist, representing the Netherlands, and explains that wacky last name, who's also a friend of McKinnon's, disagreed. Silver medalist said, "No one is a transgender to steal anyone's medal. We had an honest race under UCI rules. If you compete, you accept the rules. Otherwise, don't compete. I can only imagine what she had to go through in her life to be where she is now, how hard it is to fit in." Wagner snapped back. "Just because it's a current UCI rule doesn't mean it's fair or right, and rules can be changed." 4 days later, after a firestorm of controversy, Wagner apologized to McKinnon, adding that she will work to get the rules changed offline to avoid more controversy. After having some time to reflect, I realized my Twitter comments earlier this week unintentionally fanned the flames on a controversial situation, and that I regret, Wagner wrote. I made the comments out of a feeling of frustration, but they weren't productive or positive. Wagner added, "While I may not agree with the rules when I pin on a number, I agree to race by them." And she ended, "I apologize at Rachel V. McKinnon for not properly congratulating you on race day. I hope you accepted a few days late. Congratulations and enjoy your off-season. Thanks, everyone, for reading." McKinnon refused to accept her apology, saying she merely apologizes for being caught saying it publicly. She wants to ban trans women from competing. They will fail. And then McKinnon labeled all critics as transphobic bigots, pointed out that Wagner could face sanctions for allegedly violating the USA Cycling's policy against harassment for creating hostile environments or disparaging remarks against people on the basis of gender identity. Okay, so as of 2015, IOC guidelines require biologically born men who identify as transgender to block certain amounts of natural testosterone, but no longer require gender reassignment surgery. McKinnon argues testing is against human rights because there's no way to measure if testosterone provides an advantage, instead pointing to civil rights. By catering to cisgender people's views, that furthers transgender people's oppression. When it comes to extending rights to a minority population, why would we ask the majority, McKinnon told USA Today. I bet a lot of white people were pissed off when we desegregated sports racially and allowed black people, but they had to deal with it. All right, so this story takes an odd turn because McKinnon starts out as the victim of this story and turns into a real strange aggressor towards the end. For some reason, lumping white men into this. White men is already such an easy target to turn into the villain that you don't have to do it everywhere. You already won the gold medal and everyone sided with you. You don't need to then refuse apologies and do all this other stuff. It is an act. Boiling this particular sports issue down to, quote, transphobic bigotry is oversimplifying an actual issue. It is an actual issue, and if you want people to take it seriously, to discuss it, and to make it as fair as possible, you cannot shut down the discussion by yelling transphobic bigotry. You just can't. If you want people to be able to sit down and have an honest and open conversation about things and figure out the right way to move, not even the right way to move forward, but the way that's going to be the best for everyone involved, you need to actually have the conversation. You need to listen to people. You need to understand and accept where they're coming. You don't even need to accept necessarily where they're coming from on a moral basis, but you need to acknowledge that that's where they're coming from. And then you need to work together to figure it out. Boiling it down to transphobic bigotry does not help. It makes you look bad. Honestly, it makes you look bad when you just start yelling out, you start accusing people of these kinds of things when I don't know. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. So, and then the comment section is Fox News, so take a guess on whose side they're all on. And not everybody, but there's quite a bit here. Yeah. So we won't read all those comments, obviously, because most of those comments are based in the bigotry, not the people actually involved. So to call the people actually involved bigots, you're doing yourself a disservice because the situation is not going to get better for you or anyone else if you handle it in this way. So, weird story, bound to happen at some point. And it's not the same as desegregation. The civil rights stuff with sports is vastly different than figuring out sort of transgender sports relations. They're apples and oranges, these situations. So just a very, very strange way for McKinnon to handle the situation after she won gold and was praised by people and received overwhelming support. Really weird to then go on the attack. But what are you going to do? Here's a situation that bothers me, and this one I think is pretty clear-cut. Everyone should be on the same side as this. We're getting this from Ottawa Citizen. Where is it? OttawaCitizen.com. Now, I'm not an Ottawa citizen, nor am I Canadian, but I'm here nonetheless. Ontario School Board accused of pressuring teachers not to teach the, quote, racist, end quote, To Kill a Mockingbird. I've yelled and I've ranted about this a number of times. It's more egregious when it happens in this country, but it's still really stupid when it happens anywhere else also. Let's see. Appeal District School Board teacher calls the memo a de facto book ban that tells teachers they will not be supported by the board if anyone complains. So basically, English literature teachers in a large Ontario school board have been urged not to teach the American classic To Kill a Mockingbird because it is harmful, violent, and oppressive to black students, and its trope of a white savior makes its black characters seem less than human. All of you out there should have read To Kill a Mockingbird. Does any of that ring true to you? No. Yeah, no one else either. That's why it's considered an American classic and actually a major step in the right direction for civil rights and things of that nature. So let's not even jump into all that. It's going to be the same liberal PC stuff. I'd love to hear what Jordan Peterson thinks about To Kill a Mockingbird being banned in Ontario schools, because that's his neck of the woods. I bring him up almost weekly on the show now, but yeah. Let's see here. Let's take a quick break, and then I want to jump into a lighter... it's not a lighter story necessarily, but there are less victims here, I'd say, than anything else. I'll just tease it real quick from CBS News. McDonald's, Burger King, Five Guys, among 22 burger chains given an F over antibiotics. We'll find out what all that means when we come back from break. Do I have a song queued up? No. Send your song request into the chat room, and I'll probably end up playing something here. I listen to far too many radio shows and podcasts through YouTube, and that is like all the things that they are recommending to me. So, what should we play? How about Take Me Home, Country Roads? Because I love that song, and who doesn't when they hear it? Do I want the John Denver version? No, I don't. I want let's do the Fallout 76 trailer version. It was such a hit that they actually released it as a track because people wanted that version so badly. So here's Take Me Home, Country Roads. I'm not sure exactly who's singing it, but it's from the upcoming video game, which already has severely polarizing and mixed reviews for it months before it comes out. Fallout 76. The song Take Me Home, Country Roads off of, I'm going to assume, the soundtrack when the game is eventually released. So here's that cover. Then we'll come back and talk about all the fast food that you will now probably medically have to avoid eating. Take Me Home, Country Roads. Take Me Home, Country Roads. That's from the Fallout 76 original trailer soundtrack, whatever that means. How do you have a soundtrack when it's just one track? It'd just be called a song, or a single, perhaps. But we're back now. So let's jump into this thing I was talking about before the break, off of, hold on, what do we got here? John Sr., how about Chris Stapleton, Broken Halos, Staying Country? John Sr., I am not a huge country fan. If this is newer pop country, I'm going to say no. But if it has a good sound, it's classic, outlaw-sounding country, I'll say yes. But let me know. In the meantime, McDonald's, Burger King, Five Guys, among 22 burger chains given an F over antibiotics. And in case you're wondering, how many top burger chains are there? 25. So 22 out of the 25 got an F. Getting this from CBSNews.com, something I've said a bunch of times now. Let's see. The scores were published Wednesday in a report called Chain Reaction 4 Burger Edition, which was produced by the Center for Food Safety, Consumer Reports, Food Animal Concerns Trust, U.S. PIRG Education Fund, Friends of the Earth, and Natural Resources Defense Council. Now, hearing all of those different bureaucratic sort of centers for things that are all sort of quasi-government affiliated, it calls to mind, and this is in staunch defense of burger chains that I love, but this amount of centers for whatever, it calls to mind an old expression. A camel is a horse designed by committee. And I will leave it at that. So, all of these several different groups with their own agendas decided that 22 of these chains got F grades. So, why did they get an F? For, and this is a quote, for lacking any announced policy to source beef raised without the routine use of antibiotics. Guess what, everybody? Wendy's, my personal favorite, they got a D- because 15% of its beef is sourced from producers that cut the use of Tylosin, an antibiotic, by 1/5, it says. Only 2 chains got an A rating, Shake Shack and BurgerFi. I don't know what BurgerFi is. Both companies currently serve only beef raised without antibiotics, the report says. But how bad could antibiotics be? I mean, when was the last time you got a cold after eating from Wendy's or McDonald's? Am I right, folks? Think about it. Anyways, the report notes that while Fuddruckers, Steak and Shake, and Farmer Boys, which all received F grades, have no antibiotics policies, they offer a burger option made of beef raised without antibiotics. I thought it was bad for us to be injecting stuff in the beef before we eat it, but I guess now it's good. Let's see. Overuse of antibiotics, excuse me. Overuse of antibiotics in livestock can cause resistant bacteria to spread, putting humans at risk of developing life-threatening infections. So it's actually the opposite of what I thought. I didn't actually think that either. The report says many meat producers give animals antibiotics to encourage quicker growth or stave off disease, calling it a routine practice. When antibiotics stop working, disease becomes harder to treat, blah, 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 blah. So, let's see. Each year in the U.S., at least 2 million people get an antibiotic-resistant infection, and at least 23,000 people die, the CDC says. They don't give, like, a full list of all the things. I'm going to have to lean in and read all of the stupid logos here. So, Shake Shack and BurgerFi got an A. Wendy's got a D-. Now, here's 22 from the F category. We got McDonald's, Burger King, Sonic, Jack in the Box, Hardee's, Whataburger, I don't know what that is, Carl's Jr., which I always thought was just part of Hardee's. Guess not. Five Guys. What does that say? Culver's? I don't know what that is. Steak and Shake, it looks like. In-N-Out Burger. I'll fist fight anybody who says that In-N-Out Burger needs to go away. You want to give In-N-Out Burger an F for anything? Fight me. Just come here. Come to 26 East Main Street, Pawling, New York. Come fight me. Then that's how much I love In-N-Out Burger, by the way. That's a glowing endorsement, and they better throw me some sponsorship money. Anyways, moving on. White Castle, also on this list. Checkers, Crystal with a K, Smash Burger, Freddy something, Steak Burger, The Habit Burger Grill, Rallies, which has the exact same logo as Checkers, so I have to assume they're connected, Fuddruckers, which is a stupid name, A&W, like the root beer, Jack's, and Farmer Boys. So they all got Fs. So if you're looking to have a burger, you better find a Shake Shack or a BurgerFi somewhere in the northeast of the U.S., because I assume that's where my listeners are typically. So, yeah, all the other stuff, they're saying it's real bad. So bad, it got the worst grade you can get. There you go. So, yeah, who knows? I mean, if they're going to change any of their policies, I would assume no. All those companies typically are involved in lobbying in some way. They can do whatever they want. I mean, you don't have a corporation the size of a McDonald's that's not breaking some kind of a law and covering it up with some kind of a money. In my opinion. I'm not saying that that's true. That's what I think. That's a theory that I have myself. So don't sue me. More horrifying things in the news. Video shows Florida officer hitting 14-year-old twice during an arrest. Youth basketball coach had nude images of 400 boys. Pleaded guilty to both child porn and sexual exploitation. What else we got? Pro-Russian trolls jailed for defamatory comments about a Finnish journalist. Yep, you can be jailed for comments again. What else we got? Thousands take the streets in London demanding a second Brexit vote. Nope, you can't just keep voting until you get it your way. I mean, schools typically do that. I'm pretty sure the Brewster School District has done that a number of times where they put their budget out there. Everyone goes, this is absolutely ridiculous. We're not voting for it. And then they just keep putting it up for vote until it passes. I'm pretty sure Brewster does that. Again, I'll just say, I think so. Don't sue me. I'm giving myself an enormous amount of benefit of the doubt. Because I don't know for sure, But it's just that same kind of thing. If you just keep holding votes for something that didn't go your way, you take away all the power that a vote even has. So if you want a second Brexit vote and they decide that the first one is not legitimate, you've angered everyone, and you've proven that democracy is literally just a word in your country. So we'll see. We'll see. Thousands of people who just want it their way. Sounds familiar. Sounds a lot like this country. What else we got here? Yeah, Mega Millions jackpot hits $1.6 billion after no winners were crowned Friday. That's very exciting. Oh, here we go. Follow-up to a story from last week. Second Proud Boys member arrested for violent New York City brawl. Didn't I say this, everybody? Didn't I say that all those idiots were going to get caught? Well, they got the second one. I'm surprised it took them this long just to catch two. CBS News again. They're really crushing it today. A second member of the far-right group Proud Boys was arrested and arraigned Friday, 1 week after a violent brawl outside a New York City Republican club. The arrest came after the group's leader, Gavin McInnes, known loser, that's just me saying that, that's not in the article, said he was arranging for the surrender of members wanted by the New York Police Department. Ooh, what a bold leader of men you are, arranging for the surrender of your members. Ugh. You know who else does that? Terrorists hiding in the jungles in South American countries. They arrange for their people to give themselves up. You know who else does that? The Yakuza. When a low-ranking member of the Yakuza commits a crime, the higher-ups tell them, cut your pinky off and turn yourself in. This reflects negatively on the rest of the group. Sounds similar. He was also waving around a samurai sword last Friday night. So who knows? Is he styling himself after the Yakuza? There are a couple of circumstantial pieces of evidence, but doesn't matter. Gavin McInnes is a bad guy. Like I said last week, you don't need to attach any other negative things to him and the Proud Boys. They're bad enough on their own. John Kinsman, 39, arrested Friday morning, charged with attempted gang assault, attempted assault, riot, and criminal possession of a weapon. At an arraignment Friday night, prosecutors called Kinsman the, quote, single most vicious, end quote, member of Proud Boys. Just in general? Is he the Tex Watson of the Proud Boys? Who knows? The NYPD said they are still seeking 7 members of the Proud Boys in connection to the brawl after McInnes' speech at the Metropolitan Republican Club. Jeffrey Young, 38, was arrested Thursday. By the way, if you're pushing 40 and you're getting into street brawls because the weirdo loser who thinks he's way cooler than he actually is, Gavin McInnes, if you're following him and you're fighting people in the streets in his name, I mean, I think I can form a pretty accurate picture of who you are in your day-to-day life. It's not great. What else we got here? NYPD told the New York Times they have opened a regular criminal investigation into the group. The altercation between the Proud Boys members and anti-fascist protesters, or Antifa, broke out about a block away when 6 people dressed in black and wearing masks confronted Proud Boys members, NYPD's chief of detectives, Dermot Shea, said Monday. One of those dressed in black threw a bottle at the Proud Boys group, and a fight ensued for about 38 seconds until uniformed officers intervened. I don't know what altercation they're talking about, but it was a lot longer than 38 seconds. I think, if I remember the video correctly. I remember there was a lot more fighting than a 38-second thing before uniformed officers stepped in. There was a gang beatdown. I saw the video. There's footage out there of it. And by the way, Antifa, just as bad, if not worse, than the Proud Boys. Just as bad. Any of these political groups who think violence and really obstructionist protesting are the way to go over really, mostly nonsensical things, over, who's going to speak in a particular building no one's aware of. Yeah, these people, I'd say let them all riot against each other. Let them take care of each other. Proud Boys and Antifa, lock in at the rec center. Take a page out of Jimmy Vollmer from South Park's book. That's where he put the Crips and the Bloods. They worked it out. Anyways, you don't hear a lot about Antifa, and I'm going to assume a lot of that has to do with the sort of political leanings of different news organizations. McInnes, continuing this article, told The Times the rest of the group's members would soon be in custody. He's 48, co-founded Vice Media, left the company in 2008, created the Proud Boys in 2016. The club's Facebook event for the speech described him as a, quote, rebel of the right, end quote, and, quote, banned from Twitter. This godfather of the hipster movement has taken on and exposed the deep state socialists and stood up for Western values, end quote. He absolutely either wrote those or okayed them himself, Gavin McInnes. He's that kind of a guy. And by the way, being the godfather of the hipster movement, even if you're doing that ironically, still does not make you look like a cool person. Southern Poverty Law Center says the Proud Boys and their leaders regularly spout white nationalist memes and maintain affiliations with known extremists. Again, you don't have to attach them to other bad parts of society. They're already a bad part of society. They can exist separate. Last week, the Metropolitan Republican Club defended their decision to invite McInnes in a statement at BuzzFeed News. Gavin's talk on Friday night, while at times was politically incorrect and a bit edgy, was certainly not inciting violence, the club's officials said in a statement. Ahead of the speech, vandals smashed windows, filled a keypad lock with glue, and spray-painted the doors of the Metropolitan Republican Club. A note left at the scene said the damage was, quote, just the beginning, end quote. Yeah, that's about as badass as what I've been doing around here, for anybody who doesn't know. I've been slowly turning all the posters in the studio upside down to see if anybody noticed. Eventually somebody did notice, but my act is just as groundbreaking and edgy and dangerous as light vandalism on a Republican club, and then an ominous note left by some idiot with a trust fund, presumably. So, man, I'm really taking on all comers today. I don't know what's going on with me. I'm all riled up. Anybody out there ever been riled up and not sure why or how to get rid of that feeling? I'm seeing news stories, I'm just attacking them. Also, I don't think I've had a drop of water today, and it is 2 p.m. And since it's 2 p.m., this is The Fringe, 103.7 WPWL, Pauling Public Radio. I'm Mike Berquist, broadcasting to you live from the Rush Studios in downtown Pauling, New York. I don't know if we're supposed to be calling ourselves the Beat of the Valley or not yet. I know our vice chair says it a lot, but I don't hear anyone else saying it yet. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. So if I'm supposed to say it, this is the Beat of the Valley. If I'm not, ignore those comments. Yeah. So that's what we got with the Proud Boys. A little update from last week when they decided it would be a good idea to have a gang assault in Manhattan. Gang assault anywhere is cowardly and bad, but in a place that is maybe the most... is Manhattan the city... I don't know. Maybe you would have to broaden it to New York City, but I want to focus more on Manhattan. Is it the area in the United States, or maybe the world, with the most cameras on it? And I'm not talking about, forbidden areas, like an Area 51 would obviously have an enormous amount of cameras all over it, but is it the city? Let's go with that. Is it the city with the most cameras just everywhere, filming everything. It's a terrible idea to have anything that you should keep hidden. It's terrible to do those things in public in New York City because you're going to get caught immediately. All right, I'm actually getting a little weirdly lightheaded, so I'm going to take a break and play a song. I'm going to play Tom Waits. This kind of, it goes to that creepy in context thing, sort of. It's sort of cheating because it was also, again, played in Castle Rock, which I did last week's creepy in context song from. But it's a good song, and it's Tom Waits, so we're going to play it anyways. It's called Clap Hands. It's off of his very well-received, not just critically, but by the fans. This one comes up a lot. Rain Dogs, that album. So the song is Clap Hands. We'll hear that now, and then we'll come back. And you know what? I'll play Chris Stapleton immediately after that. How about that? I'll play Chris Stapleton's Broken Halos right after Tom Waits' Clap Hands. And then we'll come back. That was Chris Stapleton by request, Broken Halos, off of his album From a Room, Volume 1. Before that, we heard Tom Waits, a track off of his classic album Rain Dogs called Clap Hands. So, back now on the Fringe. There was something I was going to say. I don't remember what it was, which is not good because my job is to say things. Well, anyways. Oh, yes, I remember now. I was looking at the news. Back into it, I looked more at Google News, and I looked into science news. Now, H.P. Lovecraft, was he a fiction writer or perhaps a non-fiction writer? You tell me. Headless chicken sea monster filmed swimming off of East Antarctica. So, let's dive into that. All things terrifying that actually live in the ocean. Lower the music in case that video starts to play, which it will. BBC.com. Headless chicken sea monster filmed swimming off East Antarctica. A deep-sea swimming sea cucumber has been filmed in the Southern Ocean off East Antarctica for the first time. Real name... Alright, it's real science-y, but it's commonly known as the headless chicken sea monster, so we're going to stick with that. The creature had previously only been filmed in the Gulf of Mexico. Data from the underwater cameras will be fed back to the Commission for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources, the international body managing the Southern Ocean. And as we all know, Antarctica, that's where the monsters live. If they're going to live anywhere on Earth, it's underneath all that ice. And once we thaw it out, they're going to wake up. Wouldn't that be kind of exciting? In a really terrifying way, but it would be exciting nonetheless. To find out that monsters are real? Yeah, that would be pretty neat. Yikes. Things in Africa, not getting better. Congo rebels kill 13 and abduct children at the Ebola treatment center. So, just when you thought you were getting a handle on Ebola, those pesky rebels come and abduct the children. Man, it never stops pouring over there. That expression, when it rains, it pours. It's been pouring in Africa since the Europeans found out that there were people there. So, what else we got here in health? Oh, a nice little piece of health news. New immunotherapy drug showing promise for aggressive type of breast cancer. So, they're making headway, or I don't know what the phrase is. I can't think straight today. All my words are strange. That's terrible, having the idea, you know exactly that. That's really one of the major shortcomings of language, is that language, as detailed and crazy that it exists in so many different forms, it still doesn't hold a candle to what an actual thought is. Because you're just trying to convey your thought through speech, but speech falls short still when it comes to thoughts. Yeah. Little fun fact for you. I didn't really have anywhere to go with that thought. Just thought I'd say it out loud. So, here we are. What else we got in the news? Looking at Reddit news, I'm seeing a lot of things about firebombings and genocide. Yikes. I need people in here so we can just talk about the 90s. You know, Memberberry style. Let's see. Teacher who had sex with teen faces 10 years in jail. I'm going to guess if it's 10 years in jail, it's a male teacher. Let's find out. This is from... No, it's a super hot lady teacher. It's always one of those two things, isn't it? All right, so this is from the CochraneTimesPost.ca. Wow, that's an attractive woman. A Florida teacher sexually assaulted a 14-year-old student in her car and in a barn now faces 10 years in prison. And then they call her brunette Stephanie Peterson, 27. Why put her hair color in there unless her first name is literally brunette? Is her first name brunette? No, it couldn't be, right? But I love that the first comment, there's only 2 comments. I won't read the second one because it's inappropriate. The first comment just says hot. But of course, statutory rape is no laughing matter. A Florida teacher who sexually assaulted a 14-year-old student in her car and in a barn now faces 10 years in prison. Brunette Stephanie Peterson, 27, pleaded guilty as part of a deal with prosecutors to lewd or lascivious battery sex act with a child and transmission of harmful material to minors by electronic means. Peterson, who toiled at New Smyrna Beach Middle School. Wow, they're really taking her side pretty hard on this. She was arrested last February after picking up the grade 8 student. Was arrested last February after picking up the grade 8 student and have sex with him in her car. Who wrote this? But when the boy's mother found out, the jig was up, and Peterson reportedly started panicking. She would tell the cops, the Daytona Beach News Journal reports. So so the mother panicked and said she was going to tell the cops. So she's planning on doing something with it, Peterson wrote to the teen, adding she hated the boy so much. Then in a desperate gambit, she tried to get the boy to cool his enraged mom's jets. So I guess this is through text. Please tell her it was the worst decision of my life, and I know it was in IDK, where my brain was, but that I somehow fell in love with you briefly, and IDK why I'll never be the same person because of it. She then added, delete everything. She also pleaded guilty to sending the boy raunchy photos. The former teacher, who was fired, faces a minimum of 5 years in the joint and a 10-year spot in a worst-case scenario. She will be required to register as a sex offender. She had no comment outside court. That's crazy. And really, I'm looking at this woman. She's a 10. She's a 10. Bizarre. These stories are always bizarre. The teachers are always weirdly hot. Well, most of the time. Sometimes you get like a 90-year-old, and that really brings up a whole lot more questions. Yeah, that's so weird, though. What's wrong with these hot chicks who become teachers, who all of a sudden are like, yeah, 13-year-old, I could go for that. That's weird. There's got to be something just broken in their head, right? I don't know. It's weird. But this news article really seems to be supporting her. But yeah, so that's happening. I must know if her first name is Brunette or not. I can't be. But let me just look up her name. It is Stephanie Peterson. Stephanie Peterson. Yeah, no, her name is not... she was married too. She's still married. What? I don't understand that. You get cheated on? Your smoking hot teacher wife cheats on you with a 14-year-old boy, and you're supposed to remain married to that woman? Lunacy. By the way, her first name is not Brunette. That was a poorly written, strange article. So, and that was, again, from the Cochrane Times-Post, which I might start reading just because it is hilarious how they don't even try to report the news correctly. I appreciate that. When you don't even pretend to report it correctly. You just do it. Sort of like me. I don't pretend to, Oh, geez, Stephanie Peterson. Not only did she cheat on her husband with a 14-year-old, her husband is a firefighter. He's a damn national hero. This is a bad woman. Wow, those stories are always so weird, though. Always so weird. I don't think anything like that ever happened when I was in school. Certainly not with me. But I don't remember any of the female teachers hitting on... No, that's not true. They would hit on some of the male students. You always saw that. That always happens. It's weird. It's creepy. And that always happens. But no, there was no inappropriate relationships, I don't think. There were some teacher... faculty member relationships that got a little messy and came to light. There were some firings over that, but I don't think there was ever any female teacher, male student stuff. No, we had people. I mean, there is definitely a double standard here with this kind of reporting because when it's the female teacher to the male student, it is a totally different scenario most of the time, I'd say, to male teacher, female student. It's always, hold on. Excuse me. It's a weird time for my throat to just get suddenly dry. Excuse me. That's right. I just need a little Monster Energy. Get everything back working normally. Fortunately, I've lost my train of thought. Oh, nope, I got it. We had at the Brewster School District, there was a teacher who had a relationship with a student not too long ago, actually. That came out. That was a big deal. A lot of stuff happened after that. A lot of police presence, a lot of things. And rightly so. Rightly so. But society looks at those two crimes, while identical on paper. It's the gender swap that really throws people, I think. I hope I'm not just saying offensive things that nobody agrees with, because that would also be a problem for me. But let's just move on through the news. 12-pound lunar meteorite sells for more than $600,000. You would think that it would go for more than that, and it would also not be sold to people because it is a lunar meteorite, and that seems like something that should be in a museum if I'm going to really channel my inner Indiana Jones here. What else we got? Oh, God. Wish people would stop beating up children, please. I know that's like... it's a futile request to make over the air, but yeah. What else? Yeah, I don't know. There's this is interesting from The Guardian. Minor earthquakes detected near fracking site in Lancashire. TheGuardian.com. This is not UK, so where is this? Nope, it is British. That's interesting, though. I wonder if fracking... Let's see. Fracking was stopped in 2011 after two earthquakes, one reaching 2.3 on the Richter scale, were triggered in close proximity to the site of shale gas test drilling. A subsequent report found that it was highly probable that the fracking operation caused the tremors. So that's a new hiccup with fracking. I am anti-fracking, by the way. That is one of the more liberal kind of stances I take on things. And I'm not a Republican by any real means. I mean, I lean Republican, sort of. But I dislike both parties. And I certainly don't like fracking. I understand that fracking is important. I get it. I get that it makes us a major player in the world energy sector and that we can stand up more now to Russia and to Middle Eastern countries because we don't need to rely on them as much for energy. I get all that and that it creates jobs. There's a lot of positives. But it's also creating earthquakes and making the water undrinkable, and it's typically being done on Native American land in certain areas. And we're building pipelines through their lands, and then the pipelines leak, and it's a whole disaster. So I'm pretty against all that. And now that it seems to be one study in England. There would have to be a lot more than that to be able to determine if fracking is actually causing earthquakes. But I mean, from a guy who has no background in science, it seems scientifically plausible. So we'll have to see what the actual doctors and scientists and technicians think. But concerning. Certainly concerning that that's a possibility. Let's see. New York man arrested for threatening to kill senators supporting Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation. Good, you should be arrested for that. Yikes. Yeah, there's just some horror stuff. I'm not going to read all the horror stuff because it's horrific. And even though Halloween's right around the corner, you know, these stories are not that kind of horror. These are just sort of like, how did humanity sort of evolve this way? But you know what? I need to find some happier stories because I'm just scrolling through what appears to be nothing but mass rape stories. Also, they found more fetuses in funeral homes in Detroit. Guess what? 30 remains this time in a second funeral home in Detroit. So, God, I had a song queued up, and now I realize that if I start playing it right now, it's super inappropriate. It's called Don't Take It Too Bad by Townes Van Zandt. But you can't come up with, hey, they found more fetus bodies, but don't take it too bad. Here's Townes Van Zandt. You see, that doesn't really work here. That's insensitive. So let's just find a happy news story. No, forget it. You guys know where I'm coming from. You know I'm not doing this to be malicious. It's just a nice song. So I'm going to play Townes Van Zandt now. I'm going to play Don't Take It Too Bad. And then not only am I going to play Don't Take It Too Bad, but I'm going to follow it with Tecumseh Valley because I am starting to feel a little shaky now. I don't know what happened. My body just kind of turned on me about halfway through the show. So forgive me for that, listeners. In the meantime, we're going to play a little more music than usual for the remainder of the show. This is Don't Take It Too Bad by Townes Van Zandt. We're going to follow that with the great Tecumseh Valley. Did not know that was a live version until that applause right there. That was Tecumseh Valley by Townes Van Zandt. That might be my favorite song by my favorite artist. And just before that was Don't Take It Too Bad? Is that the name of it? I think it was that. It was off that self-titled third album of his, which is a masterpiece. Everything he does is fantastic, Townes Van Zandt. So, let's talk about weed, everyone. I mean, that's like a good time, right? I mean, it's not, finding infants in 3 different funeral parlors in Detroit. You know what? I have a solution for Detroit. Let's take all the people out of Detroit for a little while, like they do with hurricanes, relocate them for the time being to a different spot. Then we carpet bomb Detroit. And then once it's carpet bombed and we get all the wreckage out of there, we clean the whole thing up, and it's just like a nice flat area of land, we go back to that old thing, and I really hope this doesn't have its roots in some kind of institutional racism, because that is not the point here. But there used to be a thing, I think, in not colonial times exactly, but when they were that whole Manifest Destiny thing of expanding to the into the West. I'm pretty sure they were selling land to people, or they were giving land to people who then had to become a profitable piece of land, I think. Like, if you wanted land, you had to prove that you were going to turn it into something good. And I think that's the way to start going with Detroit again. If you want to open a business or do something like that in Detroit, you have to, I don't know, but we have to rebuild it from the start. That's my solution. And then we get the water all cleaned up out there too. Enough is enough. I mean, it shouldn't be like that. How does it get that bad? I mean, it has to be more than just the collapse of the auto industry to lead us to where we are today, right? And by we, I mean the people, I have nothing to do with anything in Detroit. Never been there. But, yeah, I don't know. There's got to be some kind of solution, right? I say mass evacuation, carpet bomb, rebuild. That's my solution. Do what you want. But let's go to weed now, because, everyone's always happy about that stuff. No one's happy about, death. So, where's the thing that I saw just before? It was about a young girl who decided to sell, in Edmonton, in Canada. Because, in case everybody didn't know, Canada now has legal recreational marijuana across their entire country. So a girl in Edmonton, guess what? Edmonton Girl Guide, I don't know what that means, but she sold out of cookies in front of a cannabis store on the first day. So that's a young entrepreneur. That's a person who understands the needs of the customer. Little Girl Scout looks like, or whatever the Canadian version of that is. I don't know what you would call that. A Mountie lass? I'm trying to go with a Girl Scout name for up there. She's I don't know what the hell it's called. But anyways, she targeted cannabis customers, which is brilliant. Because I feel like that's like the exact market for a Girl Scout cookie would probably be somebody who's stoned. So to set up your stand and sell cookies outside of that, perfect. Fantastic. So Alina, part of the Girl Guides Canada Brownies program, unloaded all 30 boxes of cookies at $5 each in about 45 minutes, according to her father. The father says he came up with the idea a day or so before legalization. Couldn't let your daughter have it, could you? Sean with 2 N's. Boo. We were going to sell them in the neighborhood, and it's always been a little slow, he said. Alina was actually bit by a dog once. She did a fantastic job and was very polite, and everyone was very polite with her, he added. Well, it's Canada. What were you expecting? He added that he used the experience to teach his daughter about legalization. What a nerd. This guy is, I don't know, is he a bad father? Maybe not bad father, but he's certainly, I don't know. There's something about him that I don't care for. Let's see. We talked about what it was and what it means for people who want to use it and people who don't want to use it, he explained. He said Alina, his daughter, has cystic fibrosis, and the Brownies program has been important to keep her active. He also said that smoking is normally harmful for her, so this was the one day she could benefit from smoking. All right. How old is this kid? A 9-year-old. You're not supposed to be giving your 9-year-old stuff to smoke. If she has cystic fibrosis, and there's that kind of... There are ways, I'm pretty sure, to do that. CBD. This is weird. Oh, wait. No. I'm reading this wrong. The article is actually incredibly confusing about this. He said that smoking is normally harmful for her, so this was the one day she could benefit from smoking. Not her smoking, but benefit from other people smoking, I think. I think that's what they're trying to say here. Not that, hey, you know what? Today's her day to light up a J. I don't think that was what they're trying to say here. I got confused. Let's continue on. He says, we like to have frank discussions with her so she understands what it is and take away that mystery behind it, he said in a separate interview with the Canadian press, just to show her people of all ages and all walks of life are doing this, and it's legal in Canada now. Just demystify it for her so it's not a big deal for her. Alina didn't elaborate much on her experience in her national TV interview, but beyond saying it was fun. She did, however, share a great joke. Why did the cookie go to the doctor, she said. Because it was feeling crummy. Yeah, you couldn't come up with a great joke for her the day before, could you? You just want to take credit for her great weed idea. Huh, dad of the child. Sean with 2 N's. That's the part that's the most offensive, is the spelling of his name. But I also Googled Canada weed to find other stories here. And I see that Canada is running out, as of a day ago from The Independent, Canada is running out of marijuana 2 days after the drug became legal. And that's to be expected. I mean, if Colorado and Las Vegas and maybe California, I think, are any indication, then yeah, I mean, the supply is always an underestimation as to what the demand is going to be. So, from independent.co.uk, Canadians were so excited about getting their hands on some legal recreational marijuana, the country is reportedly experiencing a shortage. Police were called to help shops struggling to handle long queues and with frustrated people unable to buy cannabis. Bill Blair, a former Toronto police chief who has led the government's legalization program, told public broadcaster CBC the country was unable to supply enough to meet demand. We expected, certain strains might run out, and there would be a bit of a run on supply, he said. But, they've got a pretty good infrastructure in place, and I'm confident it will work. On Wednesday, Canada became the first industrialized nation and only the second country in the world after Uruguay to legalize recreational cannabis as part of a controversial experiment in drug policy. Under the new law, citizens will be allowed to carry up to 30 grams of cannabis in public, and each household will be able to grow up to 4 marijuana plants. Medical marijuana has been legal in Canada since 2001, and Justin Trudeau's government has spent 2 years working to expand that to include recreational use. According to Statistics Canada, 5.4 million Canadians will buy cannabis from legal dispensaries in 2018, about 15% of the population. Around 4.9 million already smoke. Vancouver-based Lyft, a marijuana media platform in Vancouver, estimates Canada's cannabis industry has enough funding to boost production of the combustible herb to between 400,000 and 500,000 kilograms a year. By the way, what herb is not combustible? That's my question there. But I take umbrage with the little things. John Belushi left a comment. What did he write? Perhaps now the snowflakes who threatened to leave the country when Trump won will finally honor their word and move to Canada. If you know any of them personally, please show them where Canada is located on a map or globe. And then John Belushi wrote a comment on his own comment. 2 downvotes. So either they're snowflakes who identify as such, or they're Canadians who don't want them there. And then Sleepy Badger left the last comment on that little chain, or grown-ups who find pointless, divisive comments like yours childish. So I think Sleepy Badger won in the end. Poor John Belushi. Not a great comeback for him, I assume. Wouldn't it be strange if John Belushi came back from the dead and the first thing he did was post on some Canadian nonsense story about weed? Now I'm talking crazy. Yeah, let's do, should we do more music? I mean, I'm not finding anything. I think we're pretty much done with news. Except, this is kind of a crazy story. Let's just take a peek at this. From FoxNews.com. Arizona man, 62 years old, falls into mine shaft, breaks bones, and kills 3 rattlesnakes before being rescued days later. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a man. That is a man. He fell into a mine shaft, which, I mean, that's the most manly way to mine for things, is to have to descend a mine shaft to do it. So, there you go. That's 1. Breaks bones. 2. Still alive. Fell down a mine shaft and broke bones. Manly. Killing 3 rattlesnakes? Presumably barehandedly? That's Rambo stuff. So, maybe this is Rambo. Let's see. 62 years old. Sounds about right for Rambo at this point. Nope. John Waddell lifted out of the 100-foot deep shaft Wednesday after his friend Terry Schrader heard Waddell hollering near Eagle Eye Road and milepost 13, located about 30 miles south of Aguila, Arizona. Yeah, wow. That's crazy. So, yeah, when Waddell plummeted into the shaft Monday, he broke both his legs. Worse, as he lay helpless, he suddenly discovered several rattlesnakes were slithering around him. Waddell said he managed to kill 3 of the serpents during the trying 2 days underground, all the while hoping someone would eventually hear his cries for help. It took rescuers nearly 6 hours to pull Waddell out of the shaft to safety and then to airlift him to a hospital. Although he was severely dehydrated and had broken his legs, his injuries were not life-threatening. Yeah, and then the comments are predictably also, oddly politicized. Somebody writes, "That's one tough dude," and then in parentheses, "bet he's not a liberal." I mean, you don't have to say things like that. Nobody cares. It's not even about that. Yeah, so I just thought that was interesting. That headline had popped out for a moment. Let's do another song. Starting to get weird. I'm feeling real weird today. I don't know what the hell happened to me. I was doing fine this morning, and as the days progressed, I'm just like, ugh. Not feeling great. So, again, chat room, you got a request. Now's the time, because we are quickly running out of show here. I just maximized the screen instead of doing what I was trying to do, and I've made it worse. What should we hear, everyone? Should we hear more Tom Waits? I can arrange that. Tom Waits. What's a good one, though? Old Shoes. Let's hear Tom Waits do Old Shoes, because it's weird to hear him this young. So it's the old original version off of the Early Years Volume 2 album. So it's Tom Waits singing Old Shoes. That's a young Tom Waits singing Old Shoes. And that's the old original version, whatever that means. Back to the news real quick. I found a nice piece here. Sort of. Actually, this is not going to help us wrap it. No, yeah. I can make this work. All right. Sorry, everybody. I just had to have a little, discussion with myself on the air. Here's from apnews.com from October 19th, 2018. Shout out to my sister. It was her birthday. Giant inflatable colon stolen in Kansas. Yeah, why the hell not finish with this story? Kansas City, Kansas. Somebody has snatched a giant inflatable colon used to teach about the dangers of colon cancer. The University of Kansas Cancer Center said Friday in a news release that it was stolen from a pickup bed in Brookside. Surgical oncologist John Ashcraft says colon cancer is a tough subject for many to talk about, and the giant inflatable colon is a great conversation starter. It is 10 feet long, weighs 150 pounds, and is valued at $4,000. It is owned by the Cancer Coalition, which hosts walking and running events under a campaign called Get Your Rear in Gear. The Cancer Coalition ships the inflatable colon across the country to help see it in a unique way to help see in a unique way the progression of colon cancer. 1 in 20 people will be diagnosed with colorectal cancer. So that's a fun statistic at the end, just to horrify everyone. Somebody left a fun comment here. His name on Reddit is Frankie Poops. So it's good that he comments on, he's keeping up to date on what's happening in the poop and poop-related body parts world. He writes, how do you do an article like this without a picture? And that's an excellent question, but it's also easily answerable. They're obviously not going to put a picture like that on a news website, or the AP news website anyways. So, yeah, that's interesting. If you happen to be on your travels across the country, you happen to stop in Kansas, if you see an enormous inflatable colon somewhere, perhaps call the authorities, because that giant colon is missing. So, yeah, there's that. You know what? Still got 6 minutes left. That did not take me to the end of the show like I thought it was going to. I thought they would have found the guy, maybe, who found it, or who stole it, I mean. But, yeah, I guess not. More. See, I was so excited to end the show on that nice, light note, and now I'm scrolling through the news because I need more. Nope. Just, hold on a second. What do we have here? CTV, the more weed stories. Let's see. Even with only, this is from ctvnews.ca, so it's a Canadian website. Even with only a handful of stores open in each province, some provincial governments raked in revenue from cannabis on the first day of legal recreational sales. So let's see if we can find how much money these people made on day one. Quebec's society... Oh, my God. Enough with the French words. You're North America. Stop now. But they've reported that its dozen provincially run retail locations had customers waiting up to 4 hours to buy its products. There were 12,500 in-person transactions in the first 15 hours, the SQC says. The SQC also made 30,000 transactions online, a volume of orders that it says far exceeded expectations. They're warning of a possible shortage of oils, gels, sprays, and pre-rolled joints as a result. The SQC says online customers can expect delays of up to 5 days over and above the expected 2 to 5 day delivery time due to the high volume of sales and a possible Canada Post strike. In Nova Scotia, where sales are handled by the government-owned Nova Scotia Liquor Corporation, there were 12,810 transactions at its dozen brick-and-mortar locations and its online shop. NSLC says that amounted to $660,000 in revenue, including $47,000 sold online. In British Columbia, only a single legal retail shop was open on Wednesday. The British Columbia government says the store in Kamloops recorded 795 transactions. Meanwhile, the online cannabis shop received 9,137 orders. Prince Edward Island, where the government has opened 3 stores plus an online shop, total sales on the first day were more than $152,000 after tax, or about $1 per person in the province. Just under $21,000 of the day one sales were made online. In Alberta, the government's online store processed 8,300 orders as of 3:30 p.m. local time on Wednesday. That totaled about $730,000. Alberta's physical stores are run privately. 19 stores opened in the province Wednesday. The province expects to be about 250 stores within a year. A spokesperson for the Ontario Cannabis Store refused to release figures, saying only that there has been a high volume of orders and that the website is performing well with no issues to report. Private brick-and-mortar stores are expected to open in Ontario next spring. Cannabis New Brunswick also said it would not share numbers. Cannabis sales are taxed at $1 per gram or 10% of a product price, whichever is higher. Provincial governments receive 75% of the tax, with 25% going to the federal government. The federal portion is capped at $100 million per year. That's insane. That is insane. You would think that the United States government, money hungry as we are at any given moment, would jump all over this. I'm surprised they haven't legalized heroin in this country, considering there's an epidemic to financially exploit. I'm not saying that our government should do that, but I wouldn't put it past our government. Canadian government, don't know enough about them to know if they're wildly greedy or not. But, yeah, cannabis sales. You know what? I was just talking about this yesterday, or at least I was trying to say this to somebody. I don't think they were particularly paying attention to me. But it's an exciting time because there is no robber baron industry, or there was none up until this, really. I mean, has there been anything since like oil and steel, that's been this revolutionary in terms of like an industry being created? I mean, when was the last time? You have to go back to probably turn of the 19th century, right? 1800s into 1900s. It would have to be. And it's very exciting now that this exists, that we're going to see a John D. Rockefeller or an Andrew Carnegie. I'm not going to say Carnegie like everybody else. I don't like that. It's Carnegie. It always has been, and it always will be, for me anyways. But I digress. It's exciting. We've already seen, I think it was a year ago at least, that there's a town out west in the United States. It was a ghost town, and they moved the marijuana industry into that town, and now it's starting to boom and thrive. That's really cool that that's happening again, that we're able to experience a portion of history in a different way, a more modern day kind of approach to it. But I find that really cool. And I think it's very exciting because any one of you out there could be that John D. Rockefeller. You could be that Andrew Carnegie if you really apply yourself to this industry. Because right now it's anyone's game. That's really cool. I find that extremely interesting and exciting. So, let's see here. Just a couple of comments in the chat room. John Sr. says New York Post headline, stolen, and the Tookie Ben? I don't know. And then computers. So I need to follow the chat room more in real time. You know what I need is a staff. It's just me. I do literally everything for this show. So, yeah. No, I can't figure that out. But, sorry, John Sr., I cannot figure out what you wrote. But, thank you for listening, though. I do appreciate that. Thank you for the feedback in the chat room. So thank you all for listening. I'm just about out of time now. Thank you for listening to The Fringe on 103.7 WPWL, Polling Public Radio. I'm Mike Berquist. Became sicklier and more run down as the show has gone on. I apologize for that if the quality was affected in any way. Yeah, I should be back next week. And, if I am, I'll see you then, maybe with a co-host. So, thank you again for listening. Peace.